Dr. Dwyer, do you feel that a woman is psychologically able to meet the demands of a business career and still manage her home successfully without a feeling of guilt that something is being neglected?
Well, I certainly think she is able to do this, but it's not going to be easy. For instance, if she has just 4 hours a day that she has left over from the minimum requirement of taking care of the home, she's presented with the difficulty of finding a job that suits her for this period of time. If she should happen to have the full 8 hours a day, then it's a little easier. So she's going to have to do some searching if she's going to try to carry this plan out, which is a difficult plan for a woman, for anybody. She's going to have to do some searching. The matter of guilt is one extreme of it. At the other extreme, there's the satisfaction that she would get from being able to use her skills and abilities, although in a limited way. Now, I think she's going to be in trouble if she wants to be the superintendent of schools, or if she wants to try out for third base for the Pirates. She's going to have to be realistic about the kind of position that she has in mind, the kind of position and the amount of time.
As a child psychiatrist, what is your opinion regarding the working mother?
The mother now, with the same amount of motivation, the same amount of skill and ability, the same less amount of time with the children, it's going to be more difficult for her to find a place in which to work. There may be a time when it is even close to impossible for her to work outside of the home. For instance, I'm not sure what the chances would be of a mother who came home from the hospital with a set of twins of finding an appropriate job. But it's a matter of judgment and timing. It certainly can be done without harming the children, but it takes more planning. And the mother will be more likely to feel guilty if she spends too much time away. She's going to have to be more cautious during this time. As a child psychiatrist, I would have to say that she should keep the children's welfare in mind, get appropriate kind of help within reasonable lengths of time while she's away. Then she can still do it. And the family would benefit in the long run from it, too, if she does it successfully.
This is Mrs. Arlene Miller, a charming and talented career woman, wife of a prominent Pittsburgh dentist and mother of 4-year-old twins and a 12-year-old daughter. Arlene spends approximately 30 hours a week managing her successful art gallery in Pittsburgh. After 13 years of marriage, Arlene, why did you decide to return to the business world?
Many reasons, Eleanor. Number one, I think that I became a little bit dissatisfied with just doing women's organization work and felt that there were many challenges in the community for women to meet. More important, I had to find one that would fit into hours that were agreeable to my home situation. Still having to find time to drive the carpools and see that the children got to nursery school and back, and that I was there for basketball games for Sandy, my oldest daughter, and to attend PTA meetings. The gallery is only open 5 hours a day, so therefore I'm able to give the early morning hours and be at home when the children get home from school by 4:30. Therefore, I'm not taking that much away from them and yet exercising all of the desires that I had for wanting to bring more and better art to Pittsburgh. To conclude, my feelings are that there's much that women can do within confined hours in the community. There's still lots of jobs and lots of challenges to be handled, and I hope I'm helping to handle at least one of them.
We're visiting with another working mother, a home economist, the mother of 7 children, Mrs. Loretta Ford. Loretta, you received your degree in home economics in 1931. You worked actively in this field until 1939 when you were married, and then for 20 years you were a homemaker. In 1959, what made you decide to go back into the business world?
Well, it wasn't because I had nothing to do. I was a very busy woman. But I began to think that with the 7 children and Dr. Ford's health was not quite good at the time, I thought I had better begin thinking about supplementing our income a little. The children, at first, were a little apprehensive. They thought they were losing a mother. But I have found that since I'm working, I have had to decide what things are important, what things I have to do, and I do them. The children then take over. They know that I'm not there to do the things that I have in the past had done, and they do them. And I feel now that they have grown with me.
Did you find it difficult to get a job after being away from your profession for 20 years?
I never dreamed that this would happen to me. I felt that I was set with 7 wild Indians, as I call them. And, as I said before, at my age, I just thought, well, it's unbelievable that you'd go back and seek full-time employment at my age. I married very late. I thought I was going to continue to work all my days. I was 31 when I married, 32 when my first child was born, and, of course, I said my youngest was now 8, so I was not young when she was born. I would highly recommend any woman, regardless of her age, to seek the sort of thing that she can do. She may surprise herself when she goes back to find that she has a great many things to offer that she doesn't know she has.
So many people think of a professional woman, a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, as someone separate and apart. A woman wearing low-heeled shoes and a tweed suit and having none of the femininity of other women. But that is not true. The women of this generation who have gone into careers are just as feminine, just as much interested in men, just as much interested in the home and children, and in addition have a deep interest in a career for which they have trained. And so it is not difficult to combine all these things. The problem is the question of work. It means such a tremendously strenuous life to be a mother, to be a wife, and to be a lawyer. And it means that you must be somebody with tremendous vitality to be able to do all jobs without difficulty. It means a very strenuous and full life, and not all people really have the vitality to do it. One of the problems I found was the unwillingness of other women to believe that you could operate on several levels. They felt that that sort of split level was impossible. I remember when my daughter was born, a little old lady at the Hotel Shenley kept pressing me what I do with my daughter while I'm at the city law department. And I tried to explain to her that little babies sleep 18 hours a day, and there was no problem. But she said, and I said she had a nursemaid, but she said, but what do you do with a baby and who feeds her? And finally, in desperation, I said, well, we put her in a bureau drawer with some sliced bread and some Spam. She makes sandwiches all day long. The truth of the matter is that a child adjusts to this life. All doors are open to women. There's no field that a woman cannot enter. But very few women do enter those doors, and that, I believe, is the tragedy of our generation.
Dr. Jones, a double-barreled question. Why was this committee formed, and just what does it hope to accomplish?
Well, Ms. Schano, as I'm sure you know, our Chancellor has been concerned for a long time about our country's failure to use, at a time when it needs to use all its resources, the valuable resource of its women's talent. And so, a month ago, the Chancellor asked me to serve as chairman of a committee which would study what the University of Pittsburgh might do about it. We feel very strongly that today's world being what it is, a highly complex enterprise, no matter what part of it you get into, that to function effectively in it, people more and more must have specialized training to perform effectively in it. So that not only for the first group that our committee's concerned about, that of young women who may enter graduate and professional study right after a bachelor's degree program, but even for women who may never have gone to college and who think that they would like to go to college for an undergraduate program after they have been in the home, we should be able to counsel them as to the kind of program they should enter. I would like to express one or two personal convictions in this field. One of them is that our society, which over the years has in the end shown itself to be a fairly sensible and intelligent society, is going to conclude that it must, for its own best interests, make far greater use than it does now of the talents of its most capable women.
When I left college, I left with the idea that someday I would return and that I would finish. Another reason that cannot be minimized is the fact that the desire for education does not stop with my husband and with me. We have the same desire for our children, and when the time comes, we want to be able to give them an opportunity to go through college. For this reason, we felt that if I finished my education and began to work, we would be able to afford them the opportunity for an education as well as many extras in the way of first-hand experience, travel, which otherwise we might not be able to afford. The advantage I had over most people is that I knew this change was going to happen, was going to come about, and I had an opportunity to prepare for it. When the children were young, I began by giving them little chores, things that they were able to do physically and mentally. As they grew, so did their responsibilities grow. Quality to us was far more important than quantity. By this, I mean that we found that it wasn't how much time we spent with the children, but rather how we spent it that was important. I believe that the American woman has much to offer if she has a means by which to get at it. And finances in every young family is a problem.
Miss Anna Harris is the counseling technician for the Pennsylvania State Employment Service. Now, it's her job to look into job opportunities for women in this area. Miss Harris, would you say that there are greater opportunities for women in the business world today than there were, say, perhaps 10 years ago?
There are a greater variety of jobs which women are performing today than they had formerly. In the professions, in the field of education particularly, there are many opportunities for women teachers. In the field of social work and public welfare, there are many opportunities opening for women also. There is a demand for social caseworkers. The The expansion of health professions has also opened up many opportunities for women, such as your public health bacteriologists, for chemists, for clinical psychologists, for county health officers, for medical technologists, dental hygienists, for laboratory technicians, practical nurses, your occupational therapists, your physical therapists, and for operating room technicians. Dietitians and librarians are also in demand in the professions in Pittsburgh as well as in other parts of the state. All of these foregoing occupations do require college training, but there are other jobs available for women for which a college background is not necessary, such as your sales work, your checkout cashiers, which have resulted from the growth and expansion of your shopping centers in all parts of the country, jobs for key punch operators and for clerks, and of course women with good stenographic, secretarial, and typing skills are always in demand. In addition to all the occupations that we have mentioned previously, there are 3 tuition-free courses which are being offered in Pittsburgh for unemployed women: the food service supervisor, the practical nurse, and the operating room technician. For detailed information on these courses, you should visit the Professional and Clerical Office at 327 5th Avenue in downtown Pittsburgh.
Mr. McGill, would you care to comment on this situation regarding our local labor market?
Since we have a law, I think we have to assume that employers are law-abiding citizens and that workers are given equal pay for equal work, whether they be males or females. And while this is generally true, I think we too have to recognize that in some specific instances, this may not be true. In our own civil service positions within our bureau, we can definitely say that there is no pay discrimination. The feeling prevails that in certain professional categories, men are paid more than women. I might cite as an example the stenographer field, where a male stenographer, where we get an order for a male stenographer, many times the salary is higher than that paid for female stenographers. Where we analyze the orders that we have from employers for male stenographers, we find that in most instances male stenographers have a starting salary higher than female stenographers.
As labor market analyst for the Pittsburgh area, Mr. Carmen Smith has some interesting facts and figures concerning the impact of women on our local labor market.
I think the subject of this discussion is best approached by presenting a few facts on women workers, as prepared by the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics. These show the growing importance of women in our workforce. Let's start with population. In 1900, women were 49% of the U.S. population. In 1940, 50%. In 1960, 51%. It is stated that the number of women workers is increasing faster than their number in the population. For instance, in 1940, 25% of all workers were women. In 1961, it rose to 34%. Another interesting fact is that the median age of women workers has risen from 32 years in 1940 to 40 years in 1960. Another item says that 2 out of every 5 women workers are 45 years of age or over. As to their marital status, we find 55% or more than half are married, 23% are single, 22 are widowed, divorced, or separated. There is a definite upward trend in the employment of women in the Pittsburgh area.
This question that I've been asked, should married women work, is one that demands a very careful answer. One of the first things I think that you and I have to remember is that there is no final answer and a definite one for this question. There are certain married women, undoubtedly, that are better off because they are working. There are many mothers of young children that, in my estimation, except under most difficult and trying conditions, should not be working. They ought to be in their own home to meet the youngsters, to see they're off to school in the morning, to catch them when they come home at night, and really in no small way to keep the home fires burning. This is absolutely essential for the welfare of the country. Again, there is a question about married women whose children have gone away to college or are now working for themselves. All of these different categories have to be taken into consideration, and you just can't. It's utterly impossible to have one ruling for everyone. We're getting far away from the idea that this is an individualistic society. They're all individuals incorporated in our life, and you have to rule almost or judge by the individual conditions in each case.